Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Mystic Mountain Tarot. Today, we are going to be doing a video, ego versus the higher self. Okay, so this is kind of how to sort out your brain, really. Like, oh, how do I know I'm following my intuition? How do I know, things like that. Um, how do you know when you're telling yourself lies or the truth and stuff like that, okay? So, this is going to be pretty interesting. Alrighty. First of all, ego is not who you are. Okay, ego is your social mask. It's the role you're playing. It wants control. Okay, it is sustained by power because it lives in fear. Okay, so ego is not who you are. Ego is your social mask. It's not who you are. And a lot of people, people are like, oh, well, how do I change who I am? Well, you identify the things that are not you, not true to yourself, that type of thing, right? Um, a lot of people think that, their ego and certain thoughts and stuff are who they are, but they're not. And we're going to get into that. I'm wearing my reindeer outfit because it's pretty chilly today, okay? So I'm going to step over here and draw something. Ego is sad. Higher self is happy. Ego has very suppressing energy. It's very heavy. Um, it just feels very just confining and claustrophobic and heavy, and higher self is expansive, okay? It shoots out. All right, it's energetic. Okay, you know, it's uplifting, right? Okay, so that is how the energies feel. Ego is suppressing, higher self is uplifting and expansive, okay? Lack. Lack mindset is your ego. When you are telling yourself, hey, I don't have enough. Oh no, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? Uh, that's your ego. That's your ego telling you, hey, you can't do this. Hey, you don't have enough, right? That's not true. That's not true to yourself. That's not true to your being. Your higher self says, hey, you have plenty. Your higher self is the words of abundance, right? Like, oh, I have enough. Let me think. Uh, the universe always provides for me, right? So lack is the ego, abundance is the higher self. Okay. Lust is ego. Oh, I want something, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to be happy until I get this thing. Why don't I have this thing, and this could be sexual lust, even. It could be, desiring fame and glory and all those things. That's not love, that's lust. You are desiring things that you think are going to make you happy, right? And the opposite of that, your higher self says love. Okay, so your higher self is, finding love for yourself and others and the things that you already have. Okay, and, you know, lust is more like pleasure, love is more of a feeling, right? Okay, and, so your social mask says, hey, I don't have anything. Hey, I don't have enough. Hey, uh, I need to make more money, or I need to have these other things or a better car or anything like that. That's your ego. It's not your higher self. Okay, your higher self is saying, hey, you have everything you need. You're fine. You're fine. Okay. Your ego is saying, hey, you need fancier things. You need nicer things. Um, you know, I'm not happy until I have pleasure. I'm not happy until my desire is fulfilled. That's not true, is it? Right? We love what we have. We love who we are, where we are, who we are with, right? And you're not really lusting for things. Now, we're always going to do that. We're always, I mean, ego and our higher selves, they're part of us. They're always going to be. Your ego is there for a reason. It's for survival, right? It's like that fight or flight um stuff. It's like the adrenaline rushing. Like, in this day and age, do we really need, adrenaline to pick us up and, make us run from the saber-toothed tiger? No, we actually don't, but it's still there. It's still there, right? And yeah, it does have its purpose, like if somebody was robbing my home and, doing crazy stuff. Well, yeah, I would let this, ego side of me take hold. And, I wouldn't be like, oh, I feel bad for this person, and have compassion for that person that's trying to rob me. Your ego has its place. But the trick is to regulate it, right? Regulating it so that you don't have this overtaking your everyday life and you can be more at peace, right? You don't have to have that fight or flight type of thing all the time, that fear-based living. It's not healthy, and it's not how you can find happiness. And really, it's not even how you can find abundance, right? I mean, you can kind of find abundance in this way, but you'll always be upset and unhappy and stressed out, right? And to me, abundance isn't just about money and having the things you want and having that type of security. For me, abundance is also about happiness and having, that comfort and support and, that type of thing, okay? So, ego is me, worrying about you, how is this going to affect me, right? Or, oh, maybe I should do this that might affect another person because it'll benefit me. That type of thing, which really goes back down to the lack mindset and the lust, right? Higher self says we, right? Because your higher self understands that when you hurt another person, you're hurting yourself because we are all connected. Okay. Um, so it's like, well, I'm not going to do that thing to that person because it's going to make me sad and regretful and it's going to make me struggle with all these ego things if I do that thing, right? So your higher self understands that. Ego, pain, pain. You know, pain, it's like the time where something bad happens to you, say your boyfriend broke up with you or you lost something, lost a job, anything like that. It's where you tell yourself these terrible things, right? Or you're like, just, you're hurting so much inside. And so you have all of these painful things that you're talking about to yourself, right? Your higher self is healing, okay? Healing. So that's like, okay, well, this happened for a reason. I'm understanding, I'm learning, right? It's not telling yourself those horrible, painful thoughts, right? Like, oh, well, I knew I was gonna mess up, or something like that. Like I knew I wasn't good enough for that cool opportunity or whatever it is. That that type of wording is your ego. And you should not listen to it, remember? Because that's not who you are. That's not who you are. You are not those mean words. You are not those things you say. Okay? You are this abundance, this love, all of these things. You are your higher self, okay? Your ego is your social mask. It's the role you're playing, okay? It wants control. Every time, like when you start telling yourself, oh, I love myself, right? Well, your ego's going to pop in and it's going to say, no, you don't. You got this wrong with you. You got that wrong with you. You know, it's kind of like you have two, okay, here's a very good example. You know, in the old cartoons where they have the devil on one side and the angel on the other. That's what it is. Okay. Your ego is like the devil. It's the one saying, hey, you should go do this to that other person because it's going to benefit you in some way. And then the angel is saying, hey, you shouldn't do that. That's going to, hurt us too. Or, you would feel bad and that's not the right thing to do or whatever it is. Okay. So that's a really good example. So the ego is devil horns and a pointy tail. And this is a horrible drawing. Your higher self is the beautiful angel wings with a halo. Okay? So, ego is separation, right? It's telling yourself that you are separated from everyone. It's telling yourself that you do not have that connectedness within your family, within your friends, and not feeling connected, okay? Higher self is unity, understanding that we are all connected, understanding the me and we, right? Understanding, that what you do to others affects you. What other people do to you only affects you if you decide it does. Kind of, basically. Okay. I mean, that could have been said a little better. All right. So the ego needs validation. Okay. The ego feels it wants and needs support from outside sources, right? It wants to be told it did a good job. Okay. It wants to be told that it looks nice today. It wants to be told, that, oh, you're on the right track. You're doing great, just from outside sources. The ego desires that because it feels like it has power, right? And control over this, over your higher self. Okay. So the ego needs validation, and your higher self is confident and self assured, right? So, you know, this is a good way to figure out, if you're being run by your ego. And don't feel bad if you are. I mean, most people in the world are. It's normal. I mean, it's just about regulating it so that it doesn't take control. You want your higher self to take control because these things feel a lot better, right? They just, it's freedom, right? This is like we talked about a mind prison in my narcissistic video. This is a mind prison, okay? This is that devil in your head taking control over the freedom and, the angel, right? Okay. So, need for validation and confident and self assured. Your higher self is telling you, hey, you got this. You don't need that other person's, input. Why do you think you need that? You don't need that. All you need is your own validation. And that's very interesting because I've actually done a lot of readings like that recently where it was like you coming into yourself and finding that independence and that strength within yourself. And it like rebalances your life. It helps you find happiness and stability. You don't need, and I know that you might feel like you do. But if you do, that's your ego again trying to take control. You don't need anything that is outside of yourself. Okay, you really don't. All right. So your ego is overthinking. Okay. Your ego is that stressed out, oh my God, I didn't do this today, or I messed that up, or, just that overthinking, that constant, thoughts and thoughts and thoughts and thoughts and thoughts. Okay. And then your higher self is understanding the reason for everything, understanding why that occurred, right? And so understanding the process, even so that instead of freaking yourself out with all these thoughts, your higher self is like, okay, well, this had to happen so this and this happened, right? This had to happen because I hadn't done this or this yet, right? Like it has this understanding about things, so it's not like freaking itself out, okay? Ego, very fear-based. Remember, your ego lives in fear, and that is why it wants power and control. Your higher self has no fear attached. Has no fear attached. Okay? Your higher self trusts, okay, and it's powerful within itself. Like, okay, if you are within your higher self, you are powerful within your own being. You are confident, you are self-assured. You've been healing, you're understanding and all of that, okay? Has no fear attached. So if you're wondering if you are hearing messages from your higher self, or if that's just, your mind lying to you, you can tell that because your higher self has no fear attached to it. Your ego is fear based. So let me give you an example. All right. You're striving for some sort of crazy, outrageous career goal, like I currently am. Okay. And your ego would be telling you, you can't do that. You don't know enough to do that. You don't have enough, insight to do that. You're not confident enough to do that. There are all these blocks in your way. That's your ego talking to you, okay? Your higher self is saying, hey, you got this, and the universe will support you the entire time. And if you don't know, you will figure it out along the way, okay? Like your answers will come to you. It has no fear. It's like that passion in action, like that. I don't know. Have you ever had those, moments where you're just like, this is what I need to do? I absolutely 100% know that this is what I have to do. And you feel passionate about it and you go and do it. It was your higher self saying, hey, this is what you need to do. And I guarantee you got something out of it, didn't you? Mm. All right. Ego, holding grudges and resentment, right? And I know that some of this probably sounds pretty freaking simple, but it's important, and it's not really that simple if you think about it. All right. Holding grudges and resentment, that is your ego. That is your ego saying, "Hey, I'm not going to forgive that person because they don't deserve it." Right? That type of thing. Your higher self is forgiveness. Your higher self understands that we are all attached, we are all unified, okay? And, energetically and every way else, we are completely unified as beings on this planet, okay? So your higher self understands that if you hold grudges and resentment, you're putting yourself in a mind prison, right? You are putting yourself in a mind prison, holding those grudges and that resentment. And you're hurting yourself too. Because when you're holding those grudges and resentment, you're like, oh, I'm going to think about this stuff and I'm going to get angry every time I think about that person or see that person and blah, blah, blah. And it puts a sword down in your heart, in that mind prison. And every time you think about that person or see that person or anything like that, you just get stabbed in the heart another time, right? And that's pain, right? That's separation. Kind of need for validation, I guess, depending on the situation. It's overthinking. You don't have to think about that much stuff, right? See, it's all kinds of things. And you putting yourself through more pain doing that. So the higher self is like, hey, just forgive this dude. You're not necessarily forgiving for that person, you're forgiving for yourself. And you know that as you forgive that person, because this is your higher self and you understand the unity and you have this understanding, right? And this healing and this love, you understand that we are all connected. And if you're not forgiving this person and you're holding grudges and stuff, you're putting yourself through pain. When if you could forgive this person, you just, I mean, you heal, you move on, you go forward, you let it go, you get yourself out of this prison, right? And this heartache, okay? All right. Ego, worst case scenarios. Worst case scenarios. So that's like saying, oh no, I can't do this because I'm running out of gas, or like, I don't know, I just pulled that on my butt. Um, I'm not going to accomplish this. Oh my God, I'm going to fail, or whatever that is for you. The worst case scenarios, that's your ego. That's your ego saying, hey, no, don't do this. Don't go move forward. Don't move forward. Because this and this and this and this and that and that and that is going to happen. But your higher self is like, hey, no, no. I'm thinking about the possibilities. Okay. So your higher self is like, but this and this and this and abundance and connections and all kinds of possibilities, amazingness, and that's your passion. You start feeling that passion with the possibilities. That's your higher self. That's your higher self pushing you forward. That's the angel in your head saying, hey, you actually do got this, man. And these are the amazing things that could happen. Okay. Ego, wanting more. That goes along with lust, with lack, um, and pretty much all of it. Your higher self is grateful. Okay. That's pretty self explanatory. All right. Your ego is judgment. Okay. Your ego is judging somebody based on the way they look or something they've done, judging yourself, even judging appearances, judging houses. I mean, anything really. I mean, just being judging. Okay. Your higher self is compassion. Okay, so your higher self is like, hey, you know, this house isn't that bad. It's been through a lot, right? Or uh, that person, they've been through a lot of stuff. They've experienced a lot of things. They've been through this trauma and this hurt, and you feel for them. You have this compassion and this empathy for them, okay? And you release those judgments because you're coming to understand them and forgive them, right? And you're healing, okay? All right. Ego, hostility, okay? Ego is being aggressive, all right? And your higher self is friendly. Okay, so anytime you have those types of angers and things like that come up, that's your ego telling you these things and making you kind of explode. That's your ego kind of taking over. Okay? Ego, anger. That brings us back down to anger. All right? And the higher self is happiness. Okay? Ego, materialism. And that's an important one. Okay? Ego is the things, the phones, the makeup, the clothes, the shoes, the purses, the cars, the tools, the stuff, the stuff. And if you really, really think about it, stuff never brought anyone any happiness. What brings you happiness? True and actual happiness comes from within. Okay? So your ego is like, hey, you need this stuff to be happy. But your higher self, spiritualism will make you happy. Understanding yourself and finding your happiness within. Okay? Ego, perceived knowledge. That is where you think that you have done 100% right. That you know all, right? And there is nothing that you could know even more. Okay, it's like you know it all. You got it. No, you don't need your input. You don't need that person's input. You don't need to read more books, learn more stuff. You got it where you're at. You're not looking to improve. You're perfect enough. That's your ego. All right? Your higher self says no. That's wisdom. Your higher self understands that we are here to continuously improve, right? That we are here to understand that we have lessons to learn, and that is what life is about, okay? Ego is very past and future oriented. Okay, it's looking in the past and being regretful and resentful and upset, right? And it's looking in the future and freaking yourself out and not really knowing what to do, how to move forward, how things are going to work out, that stuff. It's past and future oriented. It's that overthinking, right? And higher self is now oriented. It's being, here now, working towards the possibilities, but not overthinking about them, right? Um, and not freaking out about the past. We can't change the past. We can't, we can try to improve the future for ourselves, but that calls for us to be in the now, right? All right. Ego, self-importance. It's thinking, you're better than people. Oh, you deserve this because whatever. It's like being handed to people. And there are so many children these days, like and young adults and stuff like that, who feel very self-important, right? That really is kind of a cultural thing right now. I mean, most of this is. It's really interesting to like watch the world, the news, the shows that people are watching these days, and how ego based it is. I mean, the news is super ego based. All of those reality shows and stuff like that. Okay, so ego is self-importance, thinking, and acting in a way that thinks that you are more important. Okay, higher self is worried about the importance of others, improving others, because therefore, when you are improving others, you're improving yourself. You're healing others, you're healing yourself, right? You're helping and improving the world as a whole, which in turn improves yourself and your being, okay? Ego, self-denial. Ego is, you know, thinking you're right all the time, right? Self-denial, not realizing that you have improvements to make, Not accepting that, hey, I hurt that person. Maybe I should, fess up, or, you know, self denial. It's like, you don't have improvements to make, okay? And your higher self says self acceptance. Oh, I made this mistake, but, I learned from it and this is what I gained from it, or, stuff like that, okay? Ego, wearing a mask, okay? Wearing a mask. Remember, it's your ego is your social mask. It's the role you're playing, okay? That is not being true to yourself. That's following the herd of sheep, right? That's uh focusing on the ego-based media and stuff like that, okay? It's wearing a mask and not being true to yourself. Your higher self is authenticity, okay? Your higher self is authenticity. It's doing what you want to do because it makes you happy. Dressing the way you want to dress because it makes you happy. Saying the words you feel because it makes you feel free, right? But remember, your higher self isn't going to say something mean to another person. If you're saying mean stuff to another person because you're trying to be authentic, that's your ego driving that, right? Okay. And a lot of people do wear masks. Most people do these days. A lot of people really don't know who they are because they are so run by their ego. They're so run by their ego, the devil part of their brain, that, you know, they don't know who they are. They're not following their passions. They're following the ego. Okay? All right, ego. Constant busyness and doing. You I'm sure you know some of these people, and you might be one yourself. This is where you just always do and do and do and do and do and do and do, and that is very fear based, right? And that's also, kind of overthinking, right? That's validation, seeking validation from others. Even a lot of people will do and do and do because they're worried that other people won't think that they're doing enough, right? That's that's putting you into lack with time. Oh, I don't have enough time to do everything. That's, it's all of these things, right? It's materialism, even, right? Higher self says stillness, balance, being, understanding that there is a time to act and a time not to, finding that balance and not overdoing, and understanding that, that's not where your happiness is. That that's not, that gets really stressful and repressive, right? And it makes it really difficult for the universe to reward yourself. Okay, that's putting yourself into a a physical reality prison, right? Like we talked about the mind prison, but doing and doing and doing and doing and constantly doing and doing and doing and doing and doing and having 10,000 things on your freaking to-do list, that is putting yourself in a mind prison, but also a physical prison, right? All right, internal chatter. That's your ego. All of that stuff we say to ourselves, all of that overwhelm, everything like that. Your higher self is a lot quieter and meditative. Okay. The ego. is seeking validation, seeking things, having that lust, right? That's very lustful and lackful, right? And that's painful because if you're always seeking, you never have, right? You don't feel like you have even. Okay? But your higher self has a knowing that you have everything you need, a knowing that you are supplied, a knowing that if you have all of these things, you can find your happiness, and that gratitude. And you have this knowing that just everything is in alignment and your answers come to you, right? Because you're no longer seeking, okay? Ego is the source of conflict, all conflict. No one's higher self ever said, hey, I'm gonna come punch you in the face, okay? No one's higher self ever said, hey, sounds like a good idea to me to start a war, okay? That does not happen. Ego, ego controls that, right? Ego is the source of conflict. Let it go. Try to let your ego go. Try to regulate that, right? And watch your life become peace. Okay. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please let me know down below. I would love to hear about it. Please let me know if you guys have any other tips, tricks, ideas, or, things to add to this list. I would also love to hear about that. This video is a little bit longer than normal. I'm sorry about that. I will be posting relationship readings tomorrow at 4 o'clock for fire and earth signs. And on Thursday, it will be air and water at 4 o'clock. Okay. And I will see you soon. Bye.